be a good cutscene to watch if half the texture's missing. Walk down the invisible stairs. Bring the item we cannot see. It's like a Star Wars moment. Okay, well. That was probably the mirror. We didn't get to see it. And this game is pretty glitched. A floating ballista. Yeah, this looks great. Looks wonderful. Shenanigans, back again, and welcome to MMOMG. I finished my third week in Riders of Icarus recently, and with the holiday season in full swing, this video is a little late. I should also note this will be the last episode for Riders of Icarus, as I didn't have time to play anymore before the end of the month. As promised, I will talk about crafting, tempering, and extraction this episode, though the focus of this video will be a summary of my experience with the game throughout this month. So with crafting, there are 6 crafting skills, and unlike most other MMOs, characters have access to all of them at once. Additionally, there's a gathering proficiency given to all characters that allows you to harvest ores, minerals, herbs, and mushrooms used in the various crafting skills. While it sounds liberating to open all crafting skills to everyone, it feels like it reduces the need for player interaction somewhat. Anyway, the 6 crafting skills are weapon crafting, armor crafting, jewel crafting, barter crafting, alchemy, and cooking. Of note is barter crafting, which allows you to make items usable by your familiars, as well as special marks that permit you to attempt taming the more powerful and rare familiars. The other skills are fairly self-explanatory. The crafting process is the same thing you've seen in nearly every other MMO. You choose an item to make from your list of known recipes, and if you have the required ingredients, you click the craft button. You wait for the crafting timer to end, and the item appears in your inventory. Basic crafting stuff. As you craft items, you receive mastery for that specific recipe. Once you've fully mastered at least 2 recipes of the current tier, you can then purchase access to the next tier of recipes in that particular skill. To put it bluntly, the majority of crafting really is just a time and money sink. Every recipe requires at least 1 item that can only be obtained by purchasing from crafting NPCs, so there's always a cost involved. Nearly all the equipment you craft prior to endgame is worse than anything you can obtain through other means. Also, many of the basic items you craft are automatically bound to you whether you can even equip them or not. I would suggest putting crafting off until later in the game, when you can get to the point you'll make items you can actually use or sell. The only exception to this, however, might be barter crafting, as you will get some decent set bonuses for your familiars, and it's unlikely you'll find enough pieces to keep all your familiars properly geared while leveling. So with your basic items that you do craft, you have 3 options for those. 1, you can sell them to an NPC and recover some of your crafting costs. 2, use the items to craft improved versions that are not bound to you and contain some random bonuses. This requires a number of rare materials as well as a one-time purchase of the improved recipe. When you're in the later stages of crafting, that might be the way to go. And then finally, 3, purchase extractors and convert the gear into tempering stones. This, however, is not recommended for any of the early crafting. The stones that you'll get will only be low quality, and I guess that brings me to the extraction and tempering system, which is a fairly simple process. So to extract, you use an extractor, which you purchase from an NPC. You use that on a piece of equipment, click the confirmation box. Both the extractor and the item are deleted. In return, you get a number of tempering stones. The better the item you extract from, the more likely you are to receive higher quality tempering stones. Then to temper an item, you just right-click the tempering stone and then click on the piece of gear that you want to temper. This opens a window that shows you the success rate of that particular stone actually improving the piece of equipment. As you might expect, higher quality stones are necessary to have a chance at improving higher level gear. You consume the tempering stone used in the process regardless of success or failure. After tempering an item to plus 10, there's even a chance for a failed tempering to lower the item by 1, which is essentially an excuse to encourage you to spend alloons to further improve your chance at success. Yep, it's one of those systems. Now, I won't go so far as to declare tempering pay to win by any means, but it's sure as hell disappointing to see an extra RNG element tossed in to further penalize players attempting to improve their gear. Which kind of brings me to my summary, and I would have to say disappointment has been a prevailing emotion for me while playing Riders of Icarus this month. I thought I kept my expectations fairly reasonable too. I assumed it would be kind of average to a mediocre MMO, but with a well-designed gimmick, that being the familiar system, to help shore it up. Unfortunately, I feel the familiar system is kind of average at best, with some really disappointing lows. As I mentioned in the last episode, I cannot fathom how this title, of all games, does not have a pet-centric class or specialization. The overall blandness of pets in general is another huge flaw that just leaves me shaking my head. I should mention that, reaching only level 34, I did not get to endgame within the month. According to several of my Twitch viewers, that's where things start getting good. I'm going to have to take their word for it, though, as the leveling process was so dull that I have no intention of sticking with or returning to the game. Riders has some of the most skippable quest text I've ever read, and yes, I realize that for some people this will be a plus. The main characters are cliché to the point of being clones of other popular titles. The story is only slightly less predictable than a children's television program. One thing I forgot to mention in my first episode is character creation, which I'd like to briefly address here. Customization is fairly detailed, especially if you look into advanced settings. Unlike most other MMOs, however, you can only play as a human. I want to draw attention to this, as there are a variety of other races friendly to your cause. Elves, fairies, and a handful of anthropomorphic races, all of which are suspiciously unavailable to players. Multiple races have been a staple since role-playing began on the tabletop, which of course was inspired by fiction written way before that. It's simply expected at this point to have multiple races in games, and the lack of options available here is highly unusual. As I've said in earlier episodes, combat is adequate, but not particularly amazing. Graphically, the game looks pretty good on higher settings, which unfortunately I could not stream or record at, so my apologies there. As for the cash shop, I never felt like I needed to purchase from it while leveling, unless of course you count spending the alloons gained through achievements to unlock familiar storage slots, things like that. The convenience of premium service, however, speeds things up a bit with a fast travel item as well as portable access to your storage and the marketplace, making it a decent option if you intend to be serious with the game. I've also heard that technically speaking, familiars gained via the cash shop's lucky boxes are slightly better than those attainable in-game, though I've been told the difference is negligible. I've also been told that at some point Nexon even capped the amount of NX players could use in a given time period, specifically to combat pay-to-win syndrome. It's supposedly feasible now to enjoy endgame without spending money at all. I suggest, however, you use a bit of skepticism when considering those previous statements. All told, Riders of Icarus is an average MMO. The problem with that, though, is that the market is flooded with average MMOs, so developers need to bring something new to the table in a meaningful way if they really want to stand out. The idea of taming mythical creatures is a damn good one, and it hooked me in. I wanted to play, but Riders fails to really make it feel as epic as it could have been. The phrase riding dragons into battle should roughly translate to amazing, but here it falls really short of that. And I just realized something. The aerial combat in this game reminds me a lot of those clunky dragon-mounted instances from World of Warcraft, and those, oddly enough, are considered some of the worst instances of the entire game. I kind of wonder how someone would think that aerial combat like that would be a good system for an entire MMO. Well, at least I know what to call this episode now. Anyway, that does it for this installment of MMOMG. Next month, I'm going to check out a title that hates being called an MMO, though many sites categorize it as such, and that is the free-to-play online action RPG, Path of Exile. You can watch me live Saturday through Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time at twitch.tv/shenanigans1930. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and feel free to leave comments below. I thank you so much for watching, and as always, take care, guys. Okay. We're fine. No, we're not fine. Jump on. There we go. All right. Back at it. Got him. Okay. Let's try this. So far, so good. Nice. Oh, he's gonna spit a mirror shard out of his chest. Puke it up. We happened to tame the owl that had the mirror shard in its gullet. But then we died. Because the cutscene. Sure. Right side, we've got a snowy owl. Thanks, Gabe. It's hard to tell where the shard landed. In the cutscene, it looked like it landed up on a cliff. All I know is it was damn nice of him to kill me while I was in a cutscene.